She stepped from the obsidian carriage with wrists bound in silver thorns, her crimson eyes dulled like dying embers. Rowan Vale had expected a monster, something wild and fanged and dangerous. Instead, he saw a trembling girl who looked more like a discarded memory than a princess. The forest held its breath. Around them, even the cold seemed afraid to move. Rowan stood beside his cabin, boots half buried in frost, watching the procession of vampire soldiers surround his home. Their armor was black-like, spilled ink, their torches burning blue with strange fire. None of them blinked. None of them breathed the way mortals do. But all of Rowan's attention stayed on the girl. Her bare feet touched the snow as if she hardly felt it. Her hair fell in tangled waves, dark as winter. Storms. Every step she took made the thorn wire bite deeper into her skin. Drops of crimson rolled down her arms and steamed against the frozen ground. The vampire king dismounted with the grace of a shadow peeling itself from night. DeVoe's thorn towered over Rowan, every part of him carved with cruelty. His presence made the air heavier as if the world itself bowed under his will. Human, the king said, his voice echoing, like a whisper across stone. You stand on my border. You hunt in my woods. And yet your people still question my patience. His gaze flicked toward the girl. So I bring payment. A gesture of goodwill. Rowan frowned. I didn't ask for payment. The king's cold smile returned. And yet here she is. Two soldiers shoved the girl forward. She stumbled and fell to her knees. Snow swallowed her hands. The silvered thorns dug deeper. For a moment, Rowan thought she might faint. But then she lifted her head, and the world seemed to quiet further. Her eyes met his, not sharp, not cold, just afraid. Rowan felt something twist in him, something protective and fierce. Her name, Drivos said, waving a careless hand, is Landra Vera, though the name holds no worth. His tone sharpened. She is useless among us. Powerless. A disappointment to the bloodline she disgraces. Landra flinched at every word, as if each one bruised her. Rowan stepped closer before he realized he was moving. Why give her to me? The king smirked. Why not? A fragile human may find some amusement in a broken vampire. Keep her. Starve her. Bury her. It is the same to me. A soft gasp came from Landra. Small, wounded, heartbreaking. Rowan clenched his jaw. She doesn't look broken. One soldier hissed, taking a threatening step. The king raised a hand, stopping him. Careful, human. Drivos murmured. You speak boldly for someone so mortal. Rowan didn't back down. If you wanted her dead, you could have done it yourself. The king's smile turned thin. Death will be mercy. He mounted his horse again. Consider her a gift or a curse. Either suits you. The soldiers turned in perfect unison. Torches hissed. Shadows stretched long across the snow. Within moments, the vampires vanished between the trees, leaving only silence. Breathless and cold, Rowan exhaled slowly and turned toward the girl. She remained kneeling, shoulders hunched, breath trembling in short, shallow bursts. The thorn wire around her wrists glimmered with cruel magic. Rowan crouched beside her. Can you stand? He asked softly. Landra jerked back from his voice, expecting a blow. I will try, she whispered, though her voice shook as if every word cut her inside. It's all right, Rowan said. I won't hurt you. She looked at him, then really looked. Her eyes weren't just red. They held something broken, but still burning. A quiet storm trapped behind glass. Rowan reached for the thorn wire. It burned the moment he touched it, silver hissing against human skin. He gritted his teeth and twisted the knot until it snapped. The wire fell away, and Landra gasped softly, almost as if she hadn't felt free in years. You shouldn't touch their silver, she whispered. I've handled worse. He stood and offered her his hand. She shook her head at it, confused by kindness. Why? Why would you help me? Because someone should. Her breath caught. The smallest flicker of warmth touched her eyes, quickly swallowed by fear. She rose slowly, legs unsteady beneath her. Rowan steadied her without grabbing, just close enough for her to lean if she chose. She chose not to, but she didn't move away either. A low growl echoed from deeper in the forest. Landra stiffened. They left something behind, she whispered. A watcher or a hunter. Rowan scanned the trees. Will it come for you? Her voice tightened. Always. Then come inside, Rowan said. We'll figure this out. She hesitated, trembling, lost between fear of him and fear of what waited outside. Then she looked at his outstretched hand again. For a heartbeat, she seemed to gather every scrap of courage she had left. She stepped closer, but just as she reached him, she whispered something so soft it nearly vanished into the cold air. Please don't send me back. Her voice broke on the last word, and Rowan knew in that instant that whatever fate had delivered to his door, it was far more dangerous and far more precious than he had ever imagined. The cabin door groaned shut behind them, sealing human warmth and vampire cold in a single breathless room. Landra flinched at the sound, shrinking toward the shadows as if even kindness might burn her skin. Rowan kept his distance, giving her space, but her trembling was sharp enough to feel across the room. The cabin was small and worn from years of storms. A single lantern flickered on the table, spreading gold light across rough wooden walls. Rowan lit the fire next, feeding it slowly. Sparks rose through the chimney like red fireflies. The warmth crawled into the air, but Landra pressed her back to the darkest corner, clutching her wounded wrists as if the room itself might swallow her. You're safe here, Rowan said softly. No one will hurt you. She didn't answer. Her eyes shifted between the fire and the door, as if both carried danger. Rowan noticed how she refused to step closer to the flames. The light from them hit her skin strangely, almost as if her shadows wanted to hold her still. He moved slowly toward her, stopping halfway, so she wouldn't retreat again. Your wrists. They're bleeding. Let me fix them. Her breath shook. You don't have to. I know, but I will. For a moment, she didn't move, caught between fear and confusion. Then she extended her arms a little, only enough for him to see the damage. Rowan approached carefully. When he wrapped the cloth around her wrists, she tensed as though expecting pain. He worked gently, his fingers warm against her cold skin. You've been hurt like this before, he murmured. She lowered her head. Many times. Silence settled between them, heavy with unspoken things. Rowan tied the last knot, making sure the bandages didn't press too tight. When he stepped back, she pulled her hands to her chest, staring at the cloth as if it were something sacred. You don't owe me anything, she whispered. I was given to you. You can treat me however you wish. Rowan frowned. I'm not treating you like property. She blinked, stunned by the words. Her lips parted as if she wanted to answer, but nothing came out. Instead, her gaze flicked again toward the fire. The flames reflected in her crimson eyes, and a thin tremor ran down her spine. You're afraid of the fire? Rowan asked. She nodded slightly. It changes us. Makes our senses too sharp. Makes hunger too loud. Hunger. The word lingered in the room like frost. Rowan swallowed. Do you need blood? Landra took a shaky step back. No, I won't take any. I can hold myself. You look weak. I'd rather stay weak than lose control, she said, voice shaking. I won't be a danger to you. Rowan watched her. There was nothing threatening in her, only fear shaped by years of cruelty. She was trying too hard to make herself small, harmless, forgettable, as if she believed she deserved to disappear. He moved to the table, grabbing a blanket. When he approached, Landra stiffened again, but he simply held it out. You're freezing, he said. Take it. She hesitated, then touched the edge of the fabric like she expected it to bite. When she drew it around her shoulders, a soft sigh broke from her lips. Not comfort, just relief. Rowan stepped back to give her space. Rest if you can. You've been through enough for one lifetime. Her voice wavered. Why are you doing this? Because no one else did. Said simply. Landra looked at him, then truly looked. Her expression softened, confusion melting into something fragile and uncertain. It wasn't trust. Not yet, but it was the closest she had come. Outside, the night pressed against the cabin walls. The fire popped sharply and Landra flinched again. Rowan turned toward the window, drawn by a strange pressure in the air, a weight he couldn't explain. He stepped closer, listening. The forest was too quiet. His hand moved to the knife on his belt. Landra, did anything follow us from the woods? Her eyes widened in sudden fear. Yes. A low sound came from somewhere beyond the cabin. Too soft for human ears, but enough to make her freeze entirely. Rowan's grip tightened. Someone or something stood in the dark outside, and it had come for her. Moonlight slithered across her skin, awakening hints of power she tried desperately to bury. Landra pressed herself against the far wall, trembling as the night outside shifted. Something ancient prowled beyond the cabin, drawn to her like a scent of forbidden royalty. Rowan stood near the window, breath steady, but heart pounding hard enough for him to hear it in his ears. The forest beyond Ashwood was different tonight, too silent, too watchful. The branches barely moved, as if every tree leaned in to listen. The vampire borderlands were less than a mile away. Rowan had spent years scouting them, hearing stories about the feral clans that lived between kingdoms. They followed no laws, serving no king. Only the blood oath politics kept them, somewhat controlled. Vampires binding themselves to leaders with ancient rituals that made them loyal or savage. Or both. But the creature outside wasn't loyal to anyone. Its hunger was older. Rowan kept his voice low. Landra, what is that thing? Her throat tightened. A shadow beast, a feral scout. Her fingers dug into her own arms. They roam the borders. They hunt anything weak or anything the king casts out. Rowan stepped back from the window, knife ready. Is it here for you? Her silence was answer enough. She edged farther from the firelight, as if afraid the glow would expose her. The flames cast strange patterns on her skin, patterns that pulsed faintly like they were alive. Rowan noticed it, but kept quiet. What does it want? He asked. Landra shook her head slowly. Not what? Who? Me? Her voice cracked. Rowan turned fully toward her. Why? Her breath quickened, shallow, panicked. Because my blood belongs to the throne. Rowan frowned. Your father said you were useless, that you had no power. Her eyes squeezed shut, pain tightening her face. I couldn't awaken my lineage. I couldn't control the fire within. Every royal vampire has a gift. Strength, vision, shadows, storms. She swallowed hard. Mine stayed silent. So they cast you out. Rowan asked softly. They feared I would break their blood oaths, or worse, bind to someone unworthy. She looked up, eyes shining like cracked rubies. Someone like you. The words landed between them, heavy and forbidden. Rowan felt heat rise to his face, though the moment was wrapped in danger. I don't want anything from you, Landra. I know, she whispered. That's what frightens me. You're the first person who doesn't. A long howl drifted through the trees, low, ancient, hungry. Rowan stepped in front of her before he even realized he'd done it. Her breath hitched, seeing him shield her with his own body. Stay behind me, he murmured. She did. The shadow outside moved. Again, scraping against wood. Rowan's grip tightened on the knife. His mind raced. He was human, barely armed, trapped in a cabin with a terrified vampire princess being hunted by something older than her own father's rule. But he didn't move away. The creature's shape appeared through the cracks. Long limbs, twisted spine, white eyes glowing without pupils. Its breath fogged the window with an unnatural red haze. A claw slid across the wood, slow and searching. Landra covered her mouth, stifling a cry. Rowan glanced back. It senses you. It senses what I'm supposed to become, she whispered. Even without my power awakened, they smell what sleeps under my skin. The beast pressed its face to the glass. Rowan held his ground. Then, after a long, tense breath, the creature's head tilted. It dragged one claw down the window, leaving a streak of dark liquid. Then, another and another. It's marking us, Rowan said. Landra's knees nearly gave out. It will tell the others. They'll come. The creature wasn't hunting. It was scouting. Rowan watched as it stepped back, the moonlight outlining its misshapen figure. It lifted a long, bony finger and carved a final mark into the cabin door, a symbol shaped like an eye dripping blood, a rune of claiming. Then it vanished into the forest, melting into shadows as if it had never existed. The night held a breathless stillness. Landra slid down the wall, shaking violently. "They know where I am now," she whispered, voice barely a sound. "And they won't stop." Rowan stared at the room glowing faintly outside, the truth sinking deep into his bones. Danger hadn't just found them. It had claimed them. Her fingers brushed his wrist. An accident that stole the breath from both of them. A pulse of scarlet light bloomed beneath her skin, answering. Something dormant in him. Something he did not understand, and she desperately feared. The energy vanished as quickly as it came, leaving the air between them trembling. Rowan froze, staring at her. Hand. Landra jerked back as if burned, clutching her fingers to her chest. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to. It's all right," Rowan said softly, though his heart thundered. "You just startled me." She shook her head violently. "No, you don't understand. My kind don't touch without reason. Touch can bind." Rowan frowned. "Bind how?" Landra looked away, eyes darkening with shame. "War brides choose partners. Through blood symmetry. A resonance, a calling." Her voice weakened. "I shouldn't have come near you. I can't control it when I'm this weak." He stepped back to give her space, but the distance didn't steady her. Instead, it seemed to frighten her more. Rowan placed a cup of water on the table, his movement steady, careful. "You didn't do anything wrong," he said quietly. "Here, drink." She reached for it, hesitating. When her fingers brushed his again by mistake, the spark returned. Soft, warm, dangerous. Both of them pulled back at once. A faint red glow flickered beneath the skin of her wrist like a heartbeat trapped in bloodlight. Rowan swallowed hard. "What is that?" "A warning," she whispered. "A sign that something in me is waking." She didn't touch the cup. Instead, she folded her arms around herself. Her entire body was trembling, not from cold, but from fear of her own nature. Rowan moved slowly, sitting across from her, keeping the fire light between them so she wouldn't retreat again. "You said war brides choose partners through something called blood symmetry." Her eyes flicked up, filled with sorrow. "It's more than choosing. It's a bond so old, no one remembers the first who formed it. When blood recognizes blood, when two lives answer each other," she exhaled shakily. "A connection forms, unbreakable. And you think that spark is part of it?" "I don't know," she whispered. "I shouldn't feel anything. My lineage never awakened. I was cast out because I couldn't perform even the smallest rite. The court laughed at me. The priest declared me hollow-blooded." Rowan leaned forward slightly. "That doesn't sound true. You're not hollow." Landra's eyes widened with a strange mixture of shock and pain. "My father said the same thing once before he realized I'd refused the marriage he arranged." Rowan stilled. "So that's why he gave you away." She nodded. "War brides are political tools. My union was meant to seal a blood oath with one of the eastern clans. They wanted my lineage, even dormant. But her voice cracked. "I couldn't do it. I wouldn't bind myself to someone who saw me as a trophy." Rowan's jaw clenched. "So he punished you for having a choice." She looked down. "I suppose a human wouldn't understand. Try me." Her eyes met his. Slowly, carefully, "I chose to flee rather than be owned." Rowan felt something twist. Inside him, something protective, fierce, and new. No one should be owned. Landra's breath hitched. She stared at him with a fragile intensity, as if trying to decide whether to trust him with the pieces of herself she had never dared reveal. The fire crackled. Outside, wind brushed the cabin walls like fingers dragging across wood. She shivered. Rowan rose. "You need rest." "No," she whispered instantly. "When I sleep, I see things." "What kinds of things?" "Flames," she said slowly. "A sea of them. Blood running like rivers. A crown shaped from ash and bone, and a woman standing in the ruins wearing it." Her voice thinned. "Sometimes she has my face." Rowan swallowed. "Sounds like a nightmare. Or a prophecy," she whispered. "My people love prophecies." He approached her again, offering the cup of water a second time. This time, she took it, but her hand shook so badly she spilled half of it. Rowan reached out on instinct to steady her. Their fingers met. The spark didn't just flicker. It surged. A burst of red shimmered across her skin, blooming like a heartbeat made of light. Rowan felt something inside him answer, his breath catching, chest tightening as though something unseen pulled them closer. Landra gasped, stumbling back. No, this is wrong. I can't bind to you. I can't bind to anyone. You're not binding to me, Rowan said, though he wasn't sure. You're just weak. You need food, rest. She folded in on herself, gripping her arms tightly. I haven't fed in days. That explains it. No, she whispered. It doesn't. Blood makes us stronger, but hunger doesn't create resonance. She lifted trembling eyes. Only fate does. Another spark pulsed under her skin. She whimpered softly, shaking her head as if trying to push the power back inside her. Rowan stepped forward. Landra breathed. I can't. Her voice broke. I can't hold it. I'm too weak. I'm sorry. Her knees buckled. Rowan lunged, catching her before she hit the floor. Her body was cold, shaking uncontrollably. Her head fell against his shoulder, her breath shallow and fading. Landra. Her crimson eyes fluttered, dimming like dying coals. Rowan, she whispered, don't let the hunger take me. And then she collapsed completely in his arms. Her fate, her life, hung by a thread, and Rowan knew he had to choose. Her fangs grazed his skin, trembling, hesitant, as if begging permission to exist. When she drank, the world shifted, and something ancient awakened in both of them. Rowan hadn't meant for things to reach this point. But Landra lay limp in his arms, breath shallow, skin cold as winter glass. Her crimson eyes were barely open, the glow fading like embers sinking into ash. She clung weakly to his shirt, not for comfort, but because her body didn't have the strength to hold itself upright. He lowered her to the floor gently, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Landra, stay with me. Come on. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Only a broken gasp. She was starving. He could feel in the way her pulse fluttered irregularly, in the way her body curled inward as if trying to hide from death itself. She had gone too long without blood in it. Was killing her. Rowan's heart hammered painfully in his chest. Tell me what to do, he whispered. Tell me how to help you. Her voice came out as a brittle whisper. No, I can't. I won't hurt you. You won't, Rowan said firmly. You don't understand, she breathed. If I lose control, I might take too much. I might bind by accident. I might, he cupped her cheek, something he'd never dared until now. I trust you. Tears gathered beneath her lashes, shining like thin silver. I don't trust myself. Outside, a branch snapped. A low hull drifted through the woods, too close, too aware. The shadow beast's warning had not gone ignored. Hunters were moving, but none of it mattered if she didn't survive the next few minutes. Rowan took a slow breath, studying himself. Then he pulled the dagger from his belt. Landra's eyes widened in horror. No, don't you dare. He raised his wrist. You need blood, and I'm right here. You're human, she cried weakly. Your blood is fragile. You won't survive giving too much. I'm not giving you too much. He pressed the blad's edge to his wrist. Just enough to keep you alive. No, she whispered, voice breaking. If you taste like symmetry, if my blood answers yours, it might start a bond one can't undo. Rowan looked into her trembling eyes. Then it starts. She stared at him, stunned, shaken, and terrified of herself. He slid the dagger across his skin. A thin line of red welled up. Landra gasped, shaking her head as if she could force the instinct away. Rowan, please don't. Don't make me. He brought his bleeding wrist toward her lips. Her breath trembled. Her fangs slipped from her gums, not by choice, but by primal need. She turned her face away, fighting with everything she had. Take it, Rowan whispered. Please. Her body jerked once, and then instinct. One. She leaned forward, trembling so hard her hands shook violently. Her lips brushed his wrist, cold and shaking. Her fangs touched his skin like a question, like a plea. Then she bit. A soft cry escaped her as his blood filled her mouth. Shock, pain, relief all tangled into one broken sound. Her hands gripped. His arm, desperate, terrified, grateful all at once. The first pull was weak. The second deep. The third trembling. Rowan clenched his jaw against the sharp sting, but it wasn't the pain that shook him. It was the feeling that rippled through his chest. Something inside him. Answer her. Heat rushed up his spine, spreading through his veins like fire poured into his blood. His breath caught. His vision flickered, and deep beneath his ribs, something tugged toward her, like a thread connecting them, pulling tight. Landra's eyes snapped open. Silver light burst across them, blinding, ancient, alive. Her dormant power woke for the first time. A shock wave of heat rolled through the cabin. The lantern flickered violently. The fire roared. Shadows twisted on the walls, bending toward her as if in worship. Landra tore herself away, gasping, collapsing against the floor. The energy around her crackled, then faded. She stared at Rowan in horror, blood shimmering on her lips. "What have I done?" she whispered. Rowan pressed a cloth against his bleeding wrist. "You survived. That's what matters. You don't understand." She choked. "We're connected now. Half of a bond. I felt it. You must have felt something, too." He didn't speak. He couldn't. The strange warmth still pulsed in his chest. Her voice softened, terrified. "Tell me you didn't feel it." Rowan's silence was answer enough. Landra closed, her eyes in despair. "Then everything is worse than I feared." Before he could ask, she doubled over, gripping her stomach. The silver fire in her eyes flickered wildly, as if something powerful inside her fought to escape. Rowan grabbed her shoulders. "Landra, I can't control it." She gasped. "My lineage, it was never dead. It was locked, too powerful, too unstable. They weren't afraid because I was weak. They were afraid because I wasn't." Her body convulsed once more before the energy faded, leaving her trembling in his arms. Then it hit Rowan. A vision, sharp and sudden. A flash of blood. A throne carved from bone. A woman with Landra's face crowned in ash. Fire swirling around her feet as shadows knelt before her. Rowan staggered, gripping the table to steady himself. Landra stared at him in horror. "You saw something, didn't you?" He nodded slowly. "I think I saw your power. Not mine," she whispered. "Yours. That's what partial bonding does." Another howl echoed through the trees, louder, closer than before. This time, it wasn't alone. Rowan moved to the window. His breath froze in his throat. Shadows moved between the trees. Dozens of them. Eyes glowed like distant lanterns. Footsteps crunched softly, surrounding the cabin in a tightening ring. Vampire. War scouts, not feral, uniformed, organized, elite. Landra's face drained of all color. "They're here for me." Rowan's fingers tightened on the dagger. "Let them come." She shook her head violently. "No, you don't understand. They won't kill you. They'll take you. They'll use you." A human bonded to a royal bloodline. The cabin walls trembled as something heavy landed on the roof. Rowan's heart jolted. "Stay behind me." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm the reason they're here. I'm the blood they want. I'm the mistake they intend to erase." A claw scraped across the roof. Long, slow, deliberate, then another. Rowan took a step back, placing himself between Landra and the door. She reached for him weakly, as if sensing something terrible about to happen. "Rowan," she whispered, voice shaking. He looked back at her, the bond pulsing faintly between them. "Stay close." Outside, the night erupted into motion, and the cabin was surrounded. Steel met fangs as Rowan fought with mortal fury against immortal hunger. Landra's scream split the night, unleashing the power she had been taught to fear. The cabin door exploded inward, shards of wood spinning through the air like broken bones. 3 vampire war scouts stormed inside, their eyes burning with the cold blue fire of loyalty to the throne. Rowan didn't think. He moved. His dagger flashed, slicing across the nearest scout's cheek. The vampire hissed, recoiling in shock. A human wasn't supposed to fight like that. Wasn't supposed to strike with such desperate force. But Rowan wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to buy Landra time to survive. Another scout lunged, claws reaching for her throat. Rowan shoved himself between them, taking a brutal hit to the side. Pain tore through him, but his grip on the dagger tightened. "Get back," he growled. The vampire snarled. "She belongs to the throne. The king claims her blood." Rowan didn't. "Back down. She's not going anywhere." But Landra was frozen, half collapsed behind him, battling the rising hunger and the unstable power inside her. Her crimson eyes flickered with silver fire that she refused to release. "Rowan," she whispered, clutching her chest. "They'll kill you." I can't hold it. Back." He didn't look at her. "Then don't. I'll hurt you. Let them try. First." For a moment, she stared at the back of his shoulders. The human who should have run, should have surrendered her, should have feared her more than them. But he stood there, trembling from pain, ready to die for her. Something inside her broke. The war scouts attacked as one. Rowan ducked under the first strike, slashing upward. His blade cut deep into a scout's arm. The second scout grabbed him by the throat, lifting him off the ground. Rowan struggled, gasping, dagger falling from his hand. "Put him down," Landra cried. The scout only tightened his grip. Rowan's face re-eamed, breath fading. Landra rose on shaking legs. "Let him go. You are to return to the king." One hissed. "Alive or dead? Your choice." Rowan's vision blurred. Landra snapped. A scream tore from her throat. Raw, powerful, ancient. The air rippled like a shock wave. Every lantern in the cabin shattered. The fire roared into a spiral, a white flame. The rooms and the walls glowed crimson. Rowan dropped to the floor, gasping for breath. Silver blazed across Landra's eyes, not soft, not flickering, but violent and full. Her lineage had awakened. The scouts stepped back, fear striking their faces for the first time. "Requiem blood." One whispered, voice trembling. Rowan coughed hard, forcing air back into his chest. "Requiem, what does that mean?" Landra didn't answer. The power roaring through her drowned everything else out. The first scout charged. Landra raised a trembling hand. A wave of red-silver energy exploded from her palm, hurling the vampire across the cabin and slamming him through the far wall. Outside, snow flurried through the hole. Left behind, the second scout tried to run. Landra turned her gaze on him. Shadows bent toward her, swirling like black smoke. They slammed into the man, throwing him to the ground. He convulsed, pinned by invisible force. Rowan stared, breathless, not with fear but awe. The power she'd been taught to. Fear was magnificent. The third scout, the one who nearly killed Rowan, charged again. Landra caught him mid-lunge, fingers digging into his chest. Her power surged, blasting through him in a burst of blinding white. He hit the floor and didn't move. The cabin fell silent, except for Rowan's ragged breathing. Landra collapsed to her knees, trembling violently, gasping like she had run 1,000 miles. No. I wasn't supposed to. Release that." She looked at her hands in horror. "I can't control it. I can't." Rowan crawled toward her, ignoring the pain in his ribs. "Landra, look at me." She backed away, terrified. "Don't come closer. I'm dangerous. I could hurt you. I could." He reached her and cooped her face gently. She froze. "You didn't hurt me," Rowan whispered. "You saved me." Her breath trembled. "I didn't choose you," she whispered, voice cracking. "I didn't choose this bond. I didn't choose the power waking inside me. I didn't. No, but I would die," she whispered, tears filling her eyes before I let them take you." Rowan's heart clenched painfully. The words struck deeper than any wound he had. "Taken tonight." "Landra," he said softly, "I'm not afraid of you. You should be." "I'm not." Her lower lip trembled. Her fingers curled weakly into his shirt. Her forehead touched his for the briefest moment. Desperate, fragile, forbidden. It was the closest either of them had ever allowed themselves to fall. A sudden thunder of footsteps shattered the moment. Both turned toward the open doorway, where snow swirled violently, not from wind, but from something approaching. Armor clattered. Shadows moved. A cold pressure filled the air. Then a tall figure stepped into view. A vampire war general. His armor was black as burnt iron, his cloak swirling like living smoke. His eyes glowed bright crimson, not with anger, but with authority carved from centuries of blood. His voice rolled across the cabin like distant thunder. Landravera. Her body stiffened. General Valor, you have caused enough chaos for one night. His gaze swept over the destroyed scouts. Your father demands your return. Rowan stepped in front of her again, dagger trembling in his hand. Valor's gaze dropped to him, amused. A human defender. How touching. She's not going with you, Rowan said. Valor chuckled coldly. You think your half-formed bond gives you rights over her. How bold. Landra pulled weakly on Rowan's arm. Rowan, don't. He's stronger than the others. The general stepped forward, boots crunching on wood and snow. Come quietly, princess. Landra's breath caught. She had barely recovered from the surge of power. She couldn't fight again. Not tonight. Rowan tightened his stance. Valor lifted one hand. Shadows stretched toward the cabin. The air trembled, and the night prepared to swallow them whole. Bound in silver chains, she rose with the fury of a forgotten goddess. Rowan felt the bond tighten, her power calling to him across blood and distance. Snow swallowed the sound of Rowan's footsteps as he stumbled through the forest, ribs aching from the war general strike. His vision blurred, but he didn't slow. He followed the trail of shattered branches, scorch marks, and blood-smeared footprints toward the mountain path. Landra's scent, cold night, and faint dying roses pulled him forward like a command etched in his bones. He pressed a shaking hand to his side, breath ragged, but the pain only sharpened his determination. They had taken her. They meant to sever the bond. They meant to erase her. He would not allow it. The trees thinned, revealing a barren cliff lit by a bleeding moon. Obsidian stones rose from the earth in a perfect circle, carved with runes older than any vampire king. Torches crackled with blue fire, and standing within the circle were figures cloaked in crimson blood priests. Their voices murmured like a swarm of insects, chanting ancient words that stirred the wind. Rowan crouched behind a boulder, breath catching. In the center lay, bound to a stone, altar with silver chains that smoked where they touched her skin. Her head hung low, but her eyes were open, dull, empty, fading. Beside her stood Drivo's thorn, his expression carved from cold pride. Begin, the king commanded. The priests moved closer, each carrying a blade forged of moonsteel. Rowan's heart slammed painfully. They weren't just severing the bond. They were killing her. He gripped his dagger, knuckles white, fighting the terror rising in his chest. The bond pulsed faintly, threads of warmth reaching out to him like a dying heartbeat. She felt him. She knew he was near. He had to act. The first priest pressed the blade toward her chest. Landra flinched, forcing a weak cry from her throat. Before the cut landed, Rowan moved. He hurled a stone at the torch line, scattering flames and drawing every gaze to the shadows. He sprinted into the circle, ignoring the burn of ancient runes under his feet. A priest lunged. Rowan dodged, slashing the dagger across the man's arm. Another swung at him. Rowan twisted, pain tearing through his ribs, but he didn't stop. He reached Landra's side and grasped one of the chains. The metal burned him instantly. He still pulled. Landra gasped weakly. Rowan, you shouldn't have come. I'm not leaving you, he said through clenched teeth. The king raised his hand. Seize him. Rowan braced for impact, but Landra convulsed violently, silver fire bursting across her skin. The priest staggered back. The king's face twisted. In shock, Rowan dropped to his knees beside her as the chains rattled and glowed red-hot. Her fingers flexed. Her eyes opened fully, silver consuming the crimson. The bond shuddered. Alive. Awakening. Drivos hissed. No, not here. Not now. But it was too late. Landra rose. The chains snapped like brittle branches, exploding outward in shards of molten silver. Power poured from her like a storm given flesh. The wind howled, lifting her hair in a whirl of black fire. Her feet hovered above the altar as red-silver flames coiled around her body like serpents of light. Rowan shielded his face from the heat, but he did not turn away. She was breathtaking, terrifying, and beautiful beyond belief. The priests knelt in terror. The king staggered back, cloak snapping in the wind. A single whispered word fell from Landra's lips. Enough. Every torch extinguished. The night trembled. Rowan rose slowly, breath shaking. She turned toward him, not as prey, not as danger, as destiny. Her voice wavered. Rowan, I didn't choose you. Her eyes softened, but my power did. The king snarled. You dare claim a human as your bound match. Landra stepped between Rowan and the king, her aura burning brighter. I didn't want to bind, she whispered. I never wanted any of this. Rowan reached out. Landra, she looked at him, tears shining through the glow. Yet I would die before I let them take you. Her father roared, summoning a wave of dark magic. Shadows surged toward her, twisting into spears aimed at her chest. She lifted her hand. A wall of silver. Flame erupted, shattering the attack. Rowan stumbled back as the blast lit the night like sunrise. The king attacked again, hurling black storms of corrupted blood magic. Landra met him with raw, untrained power, each collision sending shock waves across the cliff. Rowan grabbed a fallen priest's staff, smashing it into glowing runes to disrupt the ritual circle. Every broken symbol weakened the throne's magic. Landra gained strength. The king lost his footing. Enraged, Devos lunged at Rowan instead. Rowan barely dodged, knife flashing, but the king's strike sent him sprawling across stone. Blood filled Rowan's mouth. He couldn't move. Landra screamed his name. Her power exploded. A pillar of silver fire shot into the sky, ripping the clouds apart. She descended like vengeance given form, striking the king with such force the stones shattered beneath him. He crashed into the cliff wall, cloak torn, crown cracked. His eyes burned with disbelief and fear. Rowan tried to stand, but agony lanced through his ribs. Landra reached him in an instant, cradling his face with trembling hands. Stay with me, she pleaded. Don't you dare leave me now. A final wave of dark magic shot toward them. Rowan pushed her aside instinctively. The blast struck him instead. Pain tore through every inch of his body. He collapsed, barely breathing. Landra stared in horror as the bond flickered, weakening, almost breaking. No, she whispered, voice shattering. No, no, Rowan. She fell over him, holding his face against her chest. The king staggered up, raising his hand for a killing blow. Landra rose slowly with Rowan limp in her arms. Silver wings of light burst from her back, pure energy unfolding like the wrath of a fallen star. Her eyes blazed with white fire. Her voice cracked the air. If he dies, she whispered, your throne dies with him. The king hesitated, but only for a heartbeat. It was enough. Landra struck. Flame engulfed the cliff, swallowing the king's magic and hurling him into the abyss below. Rowan gasped as life surged back into him, the bond sealing fully, anchoring both their hearts. Landra fell to her knees, cradling him fiercely as the world fell silent around them. Dawn began to rise, and the war bride princess opened her eyes. Dawn crept over the battlefield, gilding the fallen with quiet sorrow. Ash swirled across the ruined cliff, drifting like pale ghosts in the morning wind. Landra knelt beside Rowan, her fingers trembling as they brushed his cheek. His pulse beat faintly beneath her touch, steady now, strong enough to anchor her fraying heart. He stirred, eyes blinking open. Slowly, Landra, relief broke across her face like sunlight through storm clouds. You're alive. Thank the moons. Her voice faltered as she leaned over him, forehead almost touching his. Their bond pulsed between them. A warm, steady thrum, no longer wild or unstable, but settled deep in their blood. Rowan swallowed, still breathless. You saved me. She shook her head. You saved me first. Her gaze drifted to the shattered stones, the scorched earth, the smoldering remnants of the ritual circle. And now everything has changed. Rowan slowly sat up, wincing at the fading pain. Where's your father? Landra's eyes hardened. At the cliff's edge, a trail of black ash marked where the king had fallen, yet no body remained. He fled into the shadows before the sun rose. He's wounded, but he's not dead. Then he'll come back. Yes, she whispered. For me. For us. The wind pulled her hair across her face, and she brushed it away with trembling fingers. She rose to her feet, standing, tall against the rising dawn. Her shadow stretched long behind her, changing shape, bending slightly, as if bowing to her power. Rowan stared up at her, awe shimmering in his eyes. You're different. I don't know what I am anymore, she admitted softly. When the bond sealed, when the fire came, she looked at her hands, flexing them slowly. I became something I don't understand. Rowan stood and stepped beside her. Whatever you are now, I'm still here. Her breath caught. She turned her head toward him. You're not afraid. After what I did, Landra, he murmured, brushing his thumb against the back of her hand. I watched you fight an entire war circle for me. There's nothing in you that frightens me. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I'm dangerous. You're powerful, Rowan corrected. And you choose how to use it. She exhaled shakily, closing her eyes for a moment. I never wanted to be a war bride. I never wanted a throne. But you want to survive, he said softly. And so do I. Landra turned her gaze toward the distant mountains where the vampire capital lay hidden among spires of black crystal. The clans will rise when they learn what happened. Feral, royal, eastern, southern. They will all come to claim the Requiem blood heir. A war, she whispered, because they fear what I represent, a bond with a human. Rowan frowned. Why does that matter so much? Because prophecy says the war bride queen will rise with a heart not born of our kind. Someone outside the bloodlines. A human match. Her fingers tightened around his. That prophecy crowns power. No king can control. And the king feared it was you. He knew it was me, she said, softly. That's why he cast me out. Not because I was weak, but because I was destined to become stronger than him. Silence hung between them, heavy and full of revelations. Rowan looked at her, voice steady. What do you want to do? Landra swallowed. Hard. Claim my throne. That surprised him. She saw it and stepped closer, voice trembling with emotion. Not for power. Not for revenge. Her thumb brushed his wrist gently, but to end this before it destroys us both. If I don't rise, someone worse will. Rowan nodded slowly. And I'll stand with you. A soft smile broke across her lips, fragile, grateful. You already have. They walked away from the ruined altar, their steps slow but aligned, their bond weaving warmth through the cold morning air. The forest below waited in stillness. Every branch, every shadow seemed to lean toward them, watching their descent. As they neared the tree, Landra paused. Rowan. He turned. She reached out, touching his cheek with careful fingers. I don't know what our bond will become. I don't know what fate expects from us. Her voice softened to a whisper, but I know I don't want to face it without you. You won't, he said. Not now. Not ever. The tension that had lived in her shoulders eased just slightly as she exhaled a breath that felt like release. She took his hand again, and the bond pulsed warmly, settling deeper into their hearts. They stepped into the forest together. Behind them, the shattered ritual circle crackled with lingering magic. A shadow shifted in the distance, thin, tall, silent. Not the king, but something else. Watching, following. Landra sensed it before Rowan did. She glanced back, eyes narrowing. We're not alone. Another scout. Know her. Voice lowered. Something older. Rowan reached for his dagger. Then we keep moving. They continued down the path, snow crunching beneath their feet. The rising sun stretched long rays across the land, brushing the horizon with crimson light that almost matched the glow in her eyes. The ruined moon hung pale in the sky, a reminder of what had been broken and what would rise again. As they disappeared into the trees, the world seemed to bow around them. Branches dipped, shadows shifted, wind curled gently at their backs. Hand in hand, they walked into a world that would hunt them both. And behind them, whispered by the